Another episode of Creatress of Freedom. I am Annie and I am your host. And oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be dropping back in with you on another episode. Today is actually a really special episode that I want to share with you about some reflections and some changes that I made at the start of this year. So yeah, I wanna chat with you about that. So if you are new here, hello, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. If you're an OG, hello, welcome back. I love you. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself and tuning on into today's episode. If you are watching the video, hello, hello. I see you. I see you. And if you are joining us on audio podcast, it's so good to have you here, regardless of whether you're listening or watching the YouTube. So, today I want to delve straight into a topic and a theme that I think is majorly impacting our mental health. Maybe you already are like, I know what this is about. So, I've actually been sharing the reflections inside my paid community with the women inside my private clients and inside my other containers because I feel like there has been so many valuable lessons that have come out of this experiment, shall we call it. And the experiment is all about getting off social media. So I'm halfway through. I'm like 12 days. So depending on when you're listening to this episode will depend. But as of today, as I'm recording this, I am 12 days through a social media detox. And I want to talk a little bit about why this came about, why I'm doing it, and what I've noticed in the 12 days already. Maybe it will inspire you. Maybe it will pique your curiosity on this is maybe something that you might want to try. I know since I've been having deeper conversations about what I've witnessed and the things that I've noticed for myself, I know that my friends are thinking, this does not sound like a bad idea. So let's talk a little bit about why I decided to get off social media. So I'm actually off Facebook and Instagram specifically for business and for personal. And so if you follow my Instagram account and my Facebook, you will have seen that a little while ago I posted on my feed that I was taking a social media detox. And it didn't mean that I wasn't still doing things in the back end of the business. It didn't mean that I was just completely, walking away from the business and doing nothing and having a full on meltdown. It just meant that I was taking a break from something that I noticed. Pardon me. Something that I noticed was causing me stress, and it was a huge distraction in my life. And so it was hard. And I feel like for the best part of 2024, I kept saying I have this love hate relationship with social media. And you would have heard me talk about different episodes where I've taken, a break, or where I've wanted to redirect the way that I spend my energy on social media. And, I've kind of tried to do it, but it's so hard. It is such an addiction. And it feeds something that we just constantly keep seeking. So, one thing that I noticed when I was reflecting back over my 2024 journal entries was that this was a very consistent theme every single month, where I was sharing in my journal about how much I was disliking social media, how much I felt like it was such a distraction, how much I felt like it was not for my highest good. I felt like I was comparing myself to other people and like silly, silly stuff. And it really pulled me out of the present moment of the life that I currently have right now. Things I was sharing with a friend the other day when I was sharing like all these reflections, I said to her, I was like watching people, and they were like at the local zoo in Australia. And I was like, oh, look at them. Like they're at the zoo. Oh, I wish I was at the zoo. And then I was like, bitch, hello, you live in Greece. What the fuck? And like these were the things and the realizations that I was having where I was like, I am not like fully in deep gratitude of the life that I am living right now. And after doing all the work that I've done on myself, I truly know that the quickest way to reduce your magnetism is to not be in a state of gratitude, right? Like one of the highest frequencies when we look at the frequency chart is gratitude. And so if you want to magnetize more things into your life, that's a frequency you have to stay in. And so as I was like observing all of this and I was going back through my journal entries and reflecting on 2024, it it really made it clear to me because I had written it every single month how much I was disliking social media and how once again another month had gone by and I felt like I hadn't really been very productive. You know, I have these big goals of what I want to achieve, and yet like I didn't feel like I was moving the needle forward at all. And that was evident with all of the journal entries that I had written. I found myself comparing to other people, other women in business. I found myself comparing relationships. I found myself comparing sisterhood friendships. And it really took away the focus of like what I do have right now and the the life that I've lived, you know, and so much of social media is such a highlight reel. And that's one thing that I try my best to like share the highs and the lows because it's something that I really hate seeing. I have conversations with, you know, close sisters and close friends, and, you know, they share the ins and outs and the things that they're navigating and the things that they're working through. And you know, I'm also in lots of different mentorship containers where there's hundreds of women, and you know they bring the things that they're struggling with and the things that are challenging, but yet the version of them that you see shows up on social media is this perfect, prim, proper, life is amazing, I'm making all this money, but yet on our last mentoring call you just said that you could barely make your payment to the mentor, but yet you're now declaring that you are earning all this money and that you're the right person to come and help. So there just was this like theme that I started to really notice, and I started to see the space become a little bit of a space for seeking validation, a space for proving our worth. And I don't want to be a part of that. And that was how I felt I was showing up on social media, right? Like, yes, I have an online business. And so there's so much noise in the background when it comes to online coaching. And so you're constantly, I felt like, constantly trying to prove why your method works, constantly trying to prove why you're the person that can help that person. You're constantly sharing your stories and the breakthroughs that you've gone through in hope that that lands for someone else. And, you know, a deeper level of that is seeking validation, right? Like that's really what it comes down to, is seeking the validation that, hey, I'm worthy enough of your attention, right? And whether you are using social media from a business perspective or even a personal perspective, like I really invite you to think about this. I can't remember who it was, but there was a celebrity, Ed Sheeran, that's who it was. They did an interview with Ed Sheeran, and he said when he sees somebody post something on social media, like one of his mates or whatever, he reaches out and he says, hey, are you all right? Because that's really what it is, right? We're trying to express ourselves in a way that we feel like we are not being heard. And so instead of doing it through proper containers like therapy, where you can navigate it, we end up sharing the ins and outs of our lives on social media, which I'm not saying is not, it's not a bad thing, but sometimes there is deeper rooted causes and reasons as to what we share. Uh, I can usually, with my friends, I can usually tell when one of them is having a hard time, right? Because of the types of things that they start sharing on social media. You can read between the lines of what's actually going on in people's lives. And, I just really felt like I don't know if I want to be a part of this problem, right? I'm always trying to be a part of a solution, not a problem. And I really do feel like social media is a problem, and it is designed to keep us addicted to it. It is designed to pull us out of the present moment and constantly focus on the things we don't have rather than the things that we do have. And so this was the realization that I was having around social media. And, I started to compare myself, and I started to compare, oh, maybe I shouldn't share that on social media, or maybe I shouldn't talk like that, or maybe that format, I shouldn't do that type of format. Maybe I should do carousels because I'm seeing Susanna do carousels and she's got 160,000 followers. So clearly she's doing something right, right? And you get so caught up in trying to copy somebody else's blueprint, and that may not be in alignment with you, and that's why it's not going to land. And I also understand the energetics, right? Yes, you've got strategy, but the energetics behind it can also majorly impact your business too. And so I started to really feel into this social media, and I thought, you know what, it's time. It's time. I need to take a break from it. I need to see, is this supporting my dreams? Is this actually helping me reach into my highest timeline? Or is this a self sabotage to keep me playing small, to keep me comparing myself to everyone else, to forget the medicine, to forget the wisdom, to forget the life experience that I have gone through, and really come back home to self? And so I made a decision in my own mind before I let anybody know on the like the 5th, I think it was, of this month of January. And on that day, I woke up and I said to myself, I'm having a complete social media free day. Just today, a complete social media free day. And I did. I was so surprised by the end of the day. Number one, how lost I felt for majority of the day, because it's so easy to wake up and pick your phone up and literally still laying in bed, open Instagram and open Facebook. And before you know it, you have just gone on a scrolling frenzy. And like that's how you've set your day up. And I know, because this is the work that I teach, that the most important part of your day is literally that period between sleeping and waking. Like when you're shifting those brain waves, that's such a crucial part of your day in how your day is going to be set up. And so all of the things that I was teaching, I was forgetting myself. Hello, we all take our own medicine sometimes. And so these were these bad habits that I started to pick up. Between Christmas and New Year, I went through this like a frenzy of Netflixing. Now, if you've been in my world for a while, you know that I don't really do TV. I would much rather pick up a book and read a book. And I found myself like staying up until like 3 a.m. binging Netflix. And I was like, who have I become? Who am I? I'm not sure I like this version of myself. And, it was like get to like the next episode, and then that episode would end on a cliffhanger. And I'd be like, oh, just one more episode, one more episode. And I would watch the next episode. And then again, that would end on a cliffhanger. And I'd be like, oh, just another 45 minutes. And like these were habits I did not want to pick up. And so I'm really happy that I had the awareness around it and I caught it. And I was like, no, we got to stop. We got to stop this. This is not good. My sleep pattern was already so bad. And if you've listened to previous episodes, you will have heard me talk about how bad my sleep has been since being in Greece. And sometimes I get a couple of hours sleep a night, and then sometimes I need to have a nap through the day, but then that ruins my nighttime sleep. And so I just was like, no, I have to stop these things. I can't be a hypocrite. I can't teach this to my clients and say, hey, this is why you're XYZ. This is what you should be focusing on, if I'm not doing it myself. So I caught it and I was like, nah, it's got to stop. So that first day that I took off social media definitely was a struggle because I would pick my phone up all the time, right? And yes, sometimes I was doing work stuff, but I'm going to be honest, a lot of the time after I'd done the work stuff, I got stuck in this like vortex of scrolling frenzy, doomsdaying literally for hours. And I was catching myself and I was like, okay, you've been on this for half an hour now, like it's time to get off. And I would say that to myself in my mind, and I would still keep scrolling. And I was like, this is not good. Like I'm catching it and I'm still not breaking this habit. So, if you want to change something, you have to do something different, right? That's the definition of insanity. So I realized at the end of that day how clearer my head felt. My head felt so much more at peace. And, if you think about it, we are constantly consuming so much information on a daily basis, right? If you're watching TV, if you're watching the news, if you're on your phone, even when you're driving, when you're at work, like you're constantly taking in information to make decisions, right? And just eliminating my phone, I already felt like this clarity started to come through. I felt this like calmness back within my body. And I was like, oh my gosh, if that's how I feel after one day, imagine what 30 days would do. And so then I set myself a challenge and I was like, I'm going to do 30 days. And, it was really interesting having that conversation with close friends about having a 30-day detox because so much fear comes in, right? And they're like, but don't you have an online business? Like, that's going to majorly impact your business, isn't it? And, I had to be so sure in myself because this is where projections come into play, right? And when you understand projections, you can put a beautiful little pink barrier around yourself, a beautiful little bubble, energetic bubble, and you can protect yourself from all of those projections. But if you're not anchored in your decision, it's very easy for you to be influenced by what other people are saying, right? So I hadn't told anybody yet. I had that Sunday, and then it was a couple of days where I sat with it. I was like, no, I'm going to do this, right? And so I was anchored in that decision. So when people were saying those things to me, I was like, yeah, look, potentially it might. I don't know. I've never taken a 30-day detox before, but this is an experiment and I'm going to see, number one, whether it does impact my business, and number two, how it impacts me as a human being. And I'm never going to know unless I actually do this experiment. So I don't know. It's a risk that I'm willing to take. So I set a meeting with my team and I explained to the team what was going to happen because at the end of the day, yes, I do have an online business and I could completely go off the grid for 30 days. I am fairly confident to say that that would potentially impact some of my growth. I've been in mentorship containers where different leaders have done that and, they've gathered the data and have noticed that, yes, their business majorly did was impacted, right? Not necessarily in a negative way, but it was impacted with engagement, with reach, with DMs and things like that. So I kind of had gathered that information. So I didn't want to completely go off the grid, off social media. But I still needed to have a presence, is what I needed to have. And that didn't mean that I had to show up on social media, right? So what I did is pulled the team together and I said, this is what I need to do, right? I need to do this because my mental health, my everything is just not at its highest potential right now. And I truly believe that social media is one of those contributing factors. So I'm going to get off social media and I need your help. And my team was totally on board. Like, if you've been in my world, you'll know Jackie. She is an incredible human being. And I am so grateful to have such an incredible human being a part of my team because she just gets me and she just goes with whatever it is that I say. And so I'm truly, truly grateful to have a beautiful team member, a part of the team. And so I explained to her how this was going to look. And I said, we are going to do 30 days where I'm not going to show up on social media. I'm going to completely get off social media. And I said, you're going to take over my DMs and you're going to be honest with people. Like if someone is DMing me, you're going to sign off from you, because integrity is one of my core values. And what I didn't want was people to think that Jackie was messaging them back and those people were thinking it was me, right? That's not fair. And I don't agree with that. And I have seen that happen in the online space a lot. And I have actually paid mentors that have told me to do that, right? To lie and say that it's you. And that just feels so wrong in my body that I am not willing to do that, right? So I laid out the expectations and the standards of how this was going to look and what it was going to look like. And then once we had that set up, so I still needed to approve all of the content. So Jackie takes care of some parts of my social media content and I take care of some other parts. So we created a document where everything gets put into that and I cross-check over and make sure that the video is correct, that the captions are correct, that the hooks are right, that the CTA, call to action, is all correct. And we made sure that everything was like systemized correctly. And then I let her know that she would be checking the DMs every couple of days to respond to messages. If it was anything urgent, she could let me know through our other communication channels that we've got. And then I created a post that went out, and I did that a few days beforehand and said that I was getting off social media and that I was doing a 30-day detox because they needed to pause to reflect in order to have the growth. And I explained in this post how you could still connect with me. So we were still running the podcast. We still have our website that's all up to date with all the current programs that we're currently running at the moment. All of the applications you'll find in the show notes of the podcast. We are still focusing on our email community and sending out beautiful value inside that. The only thing that I really am not doing is showing up on stories or doomsday scrolling. And everything else was like business as usual. And so throughout this 12 days, there definitely has been challenging times where I was like, I'm going to have to keep myself busy and distracted, because some days my social media could be anywhere from like screen time could be anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day. And like, yes, I said some of that is definitely work related, but there's also a huge chunk that was not. And I know that. And you've got to admit where you're at if you want to change something, right? So you can't fake your way through it or pretend that it's not as bad as what it is when you really know that it is. So being honest with yourself is the first key here. Okay. And then once you can get honest with yourself, then you can go, okay, this is a problem. And I felt like it was a problem for me. I was spending way too much time on it. So I was like, what are the things that I keep saying I want to do that I keep putting off because I keep saying I don't have time, right? So if I'm going to replace this, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours a day of social media time, what am I going to do with this time? And so I was like, well, I started my book and like time just kind of slips away. I didn't really get much time to finish that. So I'm like, I'm going to focus on that. I wanted to do some more study as well, like deeper study. So I wanted to get into that. I also wanted to read more and read like nonfiction and like personal development books. So I wanted to get into that. And I also just didn't really know what I wanted to do with business and where I'm at. And if you've listened to previous episodes, you will have heard me say, like, I'm not really sure what business looks like for 2025. I know that it's going to look very different. I know that. And I have a bit of an idea of what it looks like, but I needed to get clarity and I needed to eliminate distractions and the noise in order to hear the clarity, right? So I set myself up for success before that 11th rolled around, which was the 11th of the first, was the day that I was completely taking off social media. I went into Hanya, the town, and I bought several books that I knew would help keep me busy and occupied. I went on to a university academy website and I scrolled through different courses that I thought that I might want to study, and I bought a couple of different courses. And then I was like, and I'm going to start cooking more. You know, it's winter here, so it's cold. I'm not wanting to go out as much, pardon me, as I would normally. And so, like, I'm definitely sitting in this inward space right now. And so we are 12 days on the other side of this social media detox. And can I say, oh, fuck me, I don't know if I'm going to come back on social media, to tell you the truth. Like, if this is how I'm feeling 12 days into it, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what this is going to look like. So, what has the things that have changed since I've got off social media? You know, I think sometimes social media really takes away the key aspect of community and um, like deeper connections, right? And so I am often on social media on my story sharing a lot about my personal life and what I'm doing and where I'm going and, you know, all of those amazing things. And so a lot of my friends would see that, right? And so I wasn't having deeper connections with the people that I loved the most. And since getting off stories and social media, I have had more video phone calls from my beautiful dear sisters, and we are actually connecting on a deeper level. And we both say how much we need that, right? So, you know, scheduling in call times and being like, hey, like, I miss seeing your face. How are you? Can we like schedule a call and let's chat? And that's what we've been doing. So I've been having, you know, 2 to 3, 4 hour beautiful conversations with these beautiful soul sisters of mine, and it's brought a deeper connection because we're not just seeing the everyday of what's going on. It's like, no, like, I miss seeing you. Tell me what's happening. And so that has been something that I've really, really enjoyed, is actually having deeper conversations with beautiful soul sisters. The other thing, I am like on my fifth book for the year as well, like what the. So some are personal development and some are just like nonfiction. If you're curious to know what I'm reading, you subscribe to my email community, and I drop all of those things into our email community of all the things that I'm reading. I am cooking and dancing so much more. And you know what? Like, it's not for the gram. It's for me, and it's so good. It's so good. I can just do what I want. I don't have to worry about trying to set up the camera and, oh, you know, like creating content is a lot. Like, it's a lot. Like, daily content is a lot. And it was pulling me out of a lot of the present moment of things. You know, I'd go out for dinner with friends and, you know, I'd be that person that was taking photos and videos and, you know, sharing stuff. And I'd get home and I'd be like, did I even like be present for that whole time? And so it was so nice to start to really realize how much out of the present moment I really was being because of social media. So that has been really good. I have actually studied 3 courses. So I finished my master's in Reiki, which I mean, of course, didn't realize that I actually already kind of do a bit of Reiki, but now I've got the certificate to have that. So I had my attunement on Sunday. So finished that. I also did another course in somatic practitioner, becoming a somatic practitioner, which again is a lot of the work that I do, but I just deepened in on a lot of my knowledge around that. And then something else that I've been curious about for quite a few years is psychology. And so I am about to start a psychology course as well. This is just like a basic course to see if I want to take it further and go deeper into it, because I definitely think that that could be potentially a way that I want to go with my career as well. So, like, so many amazing things are like seriously happening because of this. What else has been going on? So, I've actually, you know, one thing that I've really noticed is, and it makes so much sense, is my meditations and my spiritual practices have deepened so much more, not in length of time. I actually think I've reduced the amount of time that I'm spending in my spiritual practices, but they're much deeper. And I believe that the reason that they're deeper is because I have less noise to try and fight through in order to find the calm. Earlier when I was on social media, I found that it would take me a long time to drop in because there's so much noise and to try and find that inner calm. So I've noticed that my psychic abilities have definitely improved way more. I'm communicating with my guides a lot more. My guides are actually a lot more present as well. And I truly believe it's because the noise has been removed out of my space. So that has been something else. The other thing that I also noticed is how much social media was impacting my mental health. Now, I want to talk about this because I think when it just becomes part of our norm, we don't actually realize how unwell we feel, right? And so when I talk about from my mental health, like I felt like I was constantly comparing myself. I felt like I was not enough. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I felt like I needed to do more. I felt like my life was not very exciting. Like, I live in fucking Greece. What the? Like, how much more exciting do you want it to get, Annie? Seriously. And all of these things were really weighing heavy. I also feel very isolated, which, if you've listened to previous episodes, this is not news to you. I've shared very openly about how isolated and alone I felt in the last few months of living in Greece. And I think social media was a way of trying to somewhat stay connected to community, but it was a really toxic, unhealthy way to be a part of community because it wasn't for my highest good. It was totally destroying my inner peace, my inner calm, and it was impacting my mental health, which brings me to the next step of my sleeping. So earlier I shared with you how much my sleeping patterns have been so bad. Do you know, since I've got off social media, I am getting 10 plus hours sleep a night. Now, if that's not enough evidence to prove that social media is impacting our well-being, I don't know what is. So I was sharing with you that I would go to bed anywhere between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. and I would still be tossing and turning, right? Still be tossing and turning. Instead, I have actually been feeling like tired. I would go to bed and not be tired. I have been feeling tired to go to bed because I've been reading mainly at night, so switching out that screen time. And I would usually shut it down, like completely lights out, anywhere between, I mean, the other night it was like 8 p.m. I was like lights out by 8:30, in bed by 8, lights out by 8:30, which is how I used to be when I was in Australia. And so I have noticed like, yeah, now I'm like going to bed at, I don't know, like anywhere between 8 and maybe midnight. But by the time I'm like actually closing my eyes, I would say I'm asleep and I'm sleeping right through until 10 hours later. And oh my gosh, my body has needed that because I literally feel like for the best part of 12 months of living in Greece, that was how my body was coping, on like a 3 hours sleep. And I remember saying to my friends, like, oh, I think I'm really struggling with like the adjusting of the time zone here. And they're like, how long you been there? And I'm like, I don't know, like 8 months. And they're like, oh, you should be adjusted by now. And I'm like, I don't feel like I am. And my friends will vouch for that because I feel like I've had that conversation so many times. So I truly, truly believe like sleep is such an important part of our healing, of our productivity, the way that we show up, and not having my sleep uh, serving me properly was majorly impacting every area of my life. And so actually getting back into a good routine, even just 12 days after being off social media, that says a lot. That really does say a lot. So that was the other thing that I also noticed as well. So to me, like there is so many great reasons to give yourself a little break off this. And as I've been sharing this inside my paid communities, it has definitely inspired a lot of women to take phone free days, not just social media, but phone free days. And they also are reporting back and saying, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm so much more productive. I've been taking Sundays off as complete phone days. It just stays completely off and in my bedroom, and we have family time. And by the time Monday comes around, I'm like so ready to go and I feel so productive. So I really want to invite you to give this a go. If you feel like your well being isn't at its optimal, right? And you eat really well, like I eat really well, I exercise probably not as much as I did when I was in Australia. But I do walk every single day, and I do look after my mental health, and I'm constantly sitting in meditation. And I have the mindfulness activities that I also do. That's another thing that I've been doing, is mindful coloring in, and I have really enjoyed doing that too. So I really do. I want this conversation to at least get those cogs turning, of opening it up to maybe giving yourself a day. Maybe you don't think you could do 30 days. I mean, I'm an all or nothing kind of gal. I'm a high achiever, so naturally I'm going to fucking send it, because that's just what I do, and that's what I work on in therapy, and that's what I pay a therapist for. So I'm aware that that is my habits and my downfall, is that I am all or nothing. And that's something that I'm really kind of proud of, actually, to tell you the truth, is that when I do make a decision on something, I stick to that. Like when I make that decision to finally leave my ex, like I followed through on that. When I made that decision to pack up and leave Australia to go to Greece, I follow through on that. When I decide to change something within the business, I follow through on that, and I'm really proud of myself for having that quality, because I think that, so many of us can be wishy-washy, and there is other areas that I am wishy-washy for sure, like my diet and, things like that. But, the best part of majority of it is that I do follow through on all of the things that I say. So if you do take a little social media cleanse, come and let me know. Send me an email. You can obviously shoot me a DM, but it won't be me checking it, but Jackie will pass on the message. Honestly, like I just feel so much happier in myself. And I want you to have that feeling. I want you to have that feeling. I want you to see the difference. I want you to see the patterns that keep recurring for you when you are on social media. And I really hope that this does inspire you to take a day or a week and just see how you actually feel, because it is designed to keep us addicted to it. It's designed to numb us out, because the more numb we are, the more health problems we have. And then if we want to get down the spiral of that, the more health problems we have, the more money the government makes of us, right? From a pharmaceutical point of view. And if you could actually heal yourself and look after yourself and realize, hey, you're in control of your health, then they can't make money off you from that way. So, there is deeper science behind what these things are doing to us. And collectively, if we want to change this, like it has to start with us, especially if you have children, especially if you have children, because they don't know what it's like without technology. And we do. If you're the generation of me or older, you know what it's like without it. You have lived your life without it, and those times, were really good. Were really good. Let's be honest, they were great times. So let's try and set those examples for our next generation coming through, so that they're not consumed by it. They are actually living life to the fullest and not killing those brain cells and impacting their mental health. I mean, there's already been statistics show that the younger generation and the suicidal rates based on social media is not good. And I don't know if you've ever watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix. If you have not watched that, I highly recommend that you watch that, especially if you have children, because it is mind-blowing what goes on and how these apps are created in order to keep us addicted and on them all the time. So that's all I'm going to do. I could honestly talk about this all day, but I'm going to leave it there today. I'm so excited to report back in at the end of this 30 days to let you know what else I've achieved and what else I've done. But oh my God, I feel so accomplished and I genuinely feel so fucking happy inside, which is so good. And I highly encourage you to give it a go too and come and let me know. I hope this episode has inspired you. If it has, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. I hope you have a beautiful day and I'll talk soon.